Okay, on this video I'm gonna talk about the Red Dead Redemption settings for the HDR, and this is to answer a question I got from somebody who also likes this game, which is amazing. This Red Dead Redemption 2 is something else. It deserves like a remaster because it's amazing. In the future, I mean, it's already looking spectacular. So this is my HDR settings. 800, 180. Why? This LG C1 can do beyond 700 nits for the highlights. So I heard this recommendation from a professional calibrator. I've been listening to his channel, his Ninjishin, and also another channel, Keep It Classy. So they are professional calibrators. They like gaming, so they play the games, they calibrate the TV, so they know what they're talking about. So this is the recommendation from Ninjishin. You do always on every single game 800 nits for the peak brightness, and if you have a minimum, you're gonna do 180. So let's say your TV can do 1000. Let's say you have the LG G1. If it can do 1000, then you're going to set this one to 1000, and this is gonna be 200. So if it's 700, the TV that you have can do 700, then you're gonna do 700 and 170. And this is not for Red Dead Redemption only, it would be for every single game. So now, if you're going to use those settings, you want to use HGIG for the HDR tone mapping. You want to use HGIG, but I don't use HGIG right now for Red Dead Redemption because I am using black frame insertion, Motion Pro. So I love black frame insertion. I mean, the motion resolution you get with that is amazing. I want to see that. So sometimes I use instead G-Sync, and then I just use HGIG. But for black frame insertion, you can use the same settings, and then you come here, you're gonna use dynamic tone mapping on. That's not the best choice. If you want to enjoy HDR, you do not want to use black frame insertion because that's going to kill the highlights. You want to use you don't want to use black frame insertion. You want to use HGIG with those settings. But yeah, HGIG is going to be challenging. It's gonna crush the blacks a little bit. And you can also do this. You can use HGIG and then raise the low setting to 380. That's what I've been, after all my testing again and again on every single scene on this game. If I'm going to use black frame insertion and HGIG, I'm going to do this 380. So what's the difference? The difference is going to be that the tone mapping is not going to be dynamic. So that's the bad thing about that. It's dynamic. So for example, when you see a highlight like the sun, it's going to look super bright, but it's going to dim in a moment. So it's not gonna last. So you have that dynamic adjustment going on. That's not the best option. The best option would be probably this HGIG, and you use that lower 380, 800, 380, HGIG, black frame insertion, that Motion Pro to high. Or if you really want to enjoy HDR, 180, 800, and then you don't want to use black frame insertion. But I love black frame insertion, so I'm gonna use that, and I would rather use that instead of HDR. But this game on HDR does look amazing. So, depending on the mood, I wanna see both. So about the colors, the color, this is where you are going to get that plasma look, native color. This is what is going to give you that fire color, that golden color. This is what is going to give you that native. So I set this to native, and then the color depth to 50, because if I do 55, it's too much red and too much green for my taste. It's too much. So I do 50, and the color saturation is nice, especially on this game. The color saturation even on 50 is a little bit higher than what I am, for my taste, but using HDR is diluting the colors anyway, because on HDR you have this big brightness on high, and what this is doing is using that white subpixel structure. So this is a WRGB subpixel structure OLED. So what that WRGB, so that W is a white, and RGB is red, green, and blue. So this set to high is not giving you a better color saturation. It's actually diluting the colors. So because of that, I think on this game specifically, it works great. I mean, you set this to high, the color to native, and 50, that this high is going to dilute the colors a little bit, and they look right to me in that setting. They look right to me. So how can you get access to modify that color? You have to make sure you have your TV in anything that is not PC mode. So you select this, you touch this button. Oh, it's too dark. So you touch that source button, you leave that press, and you're gonna come here to the three dots and make sure you have the HDMI port on game console or anything else. I just have it on game console just in case there's a better input lag, and that is what is going to allow you to use game optimizer mode, which you want to use game optimizer mode because it's gonna give you a better input lag. Game optimizer, if you compare that with cinema or any other mode, you will see game optimizer is giving you a much better input lag. So if you ask me what I would do to fully appreciate HDR, is don't use black frame insertion. Use, you get the game playing at 60 frames. Use 180, 800, HGIG, the color on native, saturation on 50, and also use boost mode. So that's something else that you're missing out by using black frame insertion. You cannot use boost mode. So if you have a game like this, 60 frames, you do not use Motion Pro. So this is gonna be the best settings. I'm gonna change it now. So I'm gonna turn off this Motion Pro. I'm going to turn boost mode, and that's gonna give me a much better input lag. It's a big difference. You're getting basically 120 Hertz input lag, which is amazing. And this looks too bright on the darkness. You do not want that. HDR is not about a brighter image. It's all the opposite. HDR is to get details on the low luminance scenes and get details on the bright highlights. So you do not want to have this looking that high. So you lower this to 180, and you have to play on a dark room. HDR is not designed to be played on a bright, Sunday. Like, you need to have a dark room. It's necessary, so you can appreciate that low luminance. So now you will see that I'm not crushing blacks. Well, I mean, You have to believe me. Well, on the video you can see it clearly. It's not crushing blacks at all. So if you want to appreciate HDR and the colors that this game offer, this is where it's at. Of course, I'm playing on a PC. I can use G-Sync, and that's what I would do. But on a console, well, actually, yes, you can use FreeSync. The Xbox has variable frame rate. So yeah, you can do it. Yeah, I would definitely do that. So you see the fire. Let's look at this fire here. This is looking like the plasma. The only thing that this is missing, comparing it with the plasma, in my opinion, is not the color. It's the glowing, the incandescent glowing that the plasma has. You cannot get that on this TV. No way. But on native, the color is looking very good. Very, very good. And of course, you're going to get a much better, you're gonna get much better colors if you play the game on SDR. HDR is going to dilute the colors, and it's visible. But nothing is perfect. You have to decide, and you can actually play one day one way, another day another way. So that's what I do. This guy is vomiting here. Yeah, so those are my settings. It looks amazing. I mean, you can see the colors. For example, you can see this light source is a white light source. You see the fire looking like fire, and you see the yellow light source. You see detail on the dark areas. You see the sky looking like night sky, and you are going to also appreciate the highlights. With HGIG, you are going to appreciate the highlights. It looks amazing. So that's it. That's what I'm using, and it's going to work for an Xbox or PS5. But you have to make sure on the Xbox or the PS5, they have their own HDR calibration. So on the PC, I just have a slider that I have to turn all the way up, and that's it. But the PS5 and the Xbox, that's actually a lot better than Windows for that, because it's going to calibrate the HDR before you enter into the game. So I much rather do that. But see, this is what I love about HDR. On the video, I'm looking at the recording, it looks brighter than what I have in front of me. But the luminance level that I'm getting here is amazing. It's just right. It feels right. It doesn't feel a lot. So then you look at the light source, and it is strong. But when you go to the darkness, it is dark. I love it. But yeah, that's it. HDR, dark room. You want to lower that low number to 180. You can even try 170 and 700, which is really what this TV is doing. It's doing up to 700, 720 nits on a small Windows. So that also makes sense, 170 and 700. I've tried that. But these professional calibrators that I've been listening, they recommend 800, because they say that you want to clip that highlight detail, and that's going to make the TV track better, the gamma. So that's it. I mean, this game is absolutely amazing. I was saying this deserves a remaster because of the grass is not spectacular, the character models and the hair is not spectacular, but this game has the best motion capture for the the horses, all the the animations are spectacular, and it has many spectacular features. The lighting, I mean, this is the best non-ray trace lighting ever. It's incredible. I mean, it has so many high, you know, high-end, graphic fidelity stuff, but it also has some low resolution textures, and the grass doesn't look great. The TAA, the anti-aliasing, is horrendous. It's the worst anti-aliasing ever. And if you turn it off, it messes up with the level of detail. So you get level of detail popping. On the computer, you can turn off anti-aliasing and then go to the settings. Not on the game. Go to the settings on Windows. Basically, the block, the document that changes the setting, and you can actually set the level of detail from 1 to 10 or even more, and then you eliminate that level of detail popping with the anti-aliasing off. But if you do that, that's going to cost, the performance is gonna be trash. So I'm expecting to revisit this game 10 years from now with a much better with a much better computer. This game is amazing. Look at that. Like, look at that. It's alive. It feels alive. You don't see that on any other game. It's amazing. So I'm planning to revisit this game 10 years from now and go to that level of detail setting on the document